Thursday. This wonderful, wonderful closing in on summertime. And I'm having a good day because it's always a good day when you're a man. And I'm going to talk with you guys about shit tests. We're going to get into some details about the types of shit tests and how to handle them, how to recognize them, and what to do if a woman just so happens to be shit testing you and why she's shit testing you.
Welcome to the Dominance Academy, where we specialize in revitalizing manhood and leadership. Our approach focuses on developing men to lead with strength and passion, enriching their lives and their families. We provide practical solutions and expert guidance in the realms of sexual education and the mysteries behind polarity and structured power dynamics. Join us at thedominanceacademy.com and restore harmony to your home while rediscovering the joy of a fulfilling masculine presence. It's time to step into your role as a leader and as a man. And now the host of the show, Mr. Justin.
What's going on? What's going on? All right, shit tests. Shit tests is a thing that will never go away. It'll never go away because it's rooted in learning and understanding things from a woman's perspective. Okay, this is how she gathers information about you. And really, you can only give a woman so much in terms of your character and what you stand on and shit like that. All right. So really what it is just her testing to see if you're a man or not, because she doesn't know. She can look at a guy and go, wow, he's he's tall and good looking, right? He's got a symmetrical chiseled face. He's got a nice jawline. He's got, facial hair or whatever the fuck they do. And then this turns into some sort of fantasy. This turns into some sort of idea in her head. And then she needs to test that idea. This is what's going on. Shout out to you guys in the chat. Dukalux, King Solar Power, Uncle Guns, Fat John, what's up? Fat John, I think you're new here, unless that's a new screen name. Welcome. So yeah, you gotta understand why the shit tests are there. And once you understand like why the shit tests are there, then you're not really bothered by the fact that they exist. Okay. The one thing to understand is that if it's happening regularly, she just doesn't like you at all. Okay. That's what's happening. All right. So don't think that, oh my gosh, she's giving me a shit test. It means she doesn't like me. That's not the case. It's just if she's testing who you are all the time, that means she has a very high doubt about who you are on a regular basis. Okay. And I think that as your time and immersion occur between a man and a woman, she's going to go through phases as she gets more deeply emotionally involved with you, such that she will periodically test you and just to see, because she's going into, say, a deeper level of trust with you, and she's going to keep going deeper and deeper. So understand that she's never going to just trust you once and then that's it. Like, there's levels to trust and they extend throughout time. Okay, so just understand that. The more honest and the more straightforward, the more you stand on your shit, the more principle based you are, the less opportunity that she has to shit test. Because if your thoughts, words, and actions are all lining up, then there's very little doubt in her mind. So if and when they do show up, it's going to be per situation. It's going to be situation based. Okay. So really what it is, it's testing of a man's confidence and the rigidity of how he sees himself. Okay, his self-concept. All right, and it's to see if you are weak and you will fold into her view. Okay, you can call it frame if you'd like, but it's just to see if you will fold into her perspective of things. And they're fairly natural, and they're necessary for women to perform. It keeps them safe, essentially, from falling for the wrong guy. All right, they need to see if you are who they think you are and who you think you are. And the thing is, unfortunately for women, is that there are some guys who are capable of copying being a confident man for a duration of time. So this is where women get fucked up. This is where you hear the terrible stories of their breakups or whatever, that they were in love with this guy and they felt a certain way and it went for a certain amount of time, and then things changed. They drastically changed within him, which made her feel upended. The rug was pulled out from under her feet, and this will rock a woman's world. Okay, so let's look at the different types of tests that a woman will perform. The nicer versions, or the nicer one, is the comfort test. Okay, and the comfort test is pretty simple, and that is basically asking, will you take care of her? Do you have the ability to take care of her? So this is where she will ask you just to like, say you're hanging out together and she's like, oh, my feet are cold, will you get my socks? Okay, that's a comfort test. It's not a shit test, it's a comfort test to see, do you have a little bit of a soft heart in which you will care for her? If you're like, bitch, get your own damn socks, right? That's going to tell her something. If you get up right away, you're like, yeah, of course. You stop whatever you're doing, you go over, get her socks. You're like, is there anything else I can get for you while I'm up? Right? That tells her something else. If you tell her, I'll get them in a minute, the moment I finish this, I've got another 20 minutes of what I'm doing. And then you get up and get her socks. That tells her something else. So there's a number of ways to deal with this, but the first one, the nicest of them, is that she's just checking to see if you give a shit about her. All right, because this is important to women. All right. So the next one is compliance. This is more of a shit test. This is coming into less nice. Okay. And compliance test is basically saying, are you going to obey her at your own expense? That's essentially what that is. And this can come in the form of her just telling you what to do, giving you chore lists or to-do lists or something along those lines. And you're seeing how you respond to that. Are you going to respond well or negatively to her giving you an instruction list? Okay. The next one is congruency. So this is more of a test of who you are. All right. So this is her way of saying, are you consistent and not putting up a front? So, and these come in the form of very subtle social situations. So whenever you're interacting with a woman, all right, and on any level, whether you're messaging, you're on the phone, or you're in person, what have you, an important thing to be cognizant of is, whose reality are you operating in? Are you trying to operate in her reality, or is she trying to operate in your reality? Essentially, whose frame are you operating within? Okay. Now, I know there's a lot of jokes around frames, but this is just a natural structuring of language, right? It's a real thing. So that's basically it. Like, are you operating on what she's doing, or is she operating on what you're doing and what you're about? Okay. And so with congruency, she's seeing if you are a man who's about himself. And I don't mean being self-centered or anything like that, but you have a certain groundedness, and you have a position that you're standing on. And then are you this way regularly? Are you like this regularly? This is what she's looking for, because it's very hard for her to trust something that's not consistent. Okay, her trust will go with the ebb and flow of your consistency. All right, if she likes you. If she doesn't like you, then she's going to see inconsistency and just drop you, right? She's going to lose interest and just go away. So, and if she does, like, that's fine, like, whatever. Okay, but for those of you who do care, this is going to break your little hearts. All right, so the next shit test is a fitness shit test. Okay, are you confident and skilled enough to handle her banter? So this is where it's very important to have wit, to have charm, and be able to handle words. All right, so like when she asks you a question, what do? Do you just answer it flatly and directly, or do you turn it into a game of wit? Do you flip what she says? Do you misinterpret what she says? Do you create a window and pass through it to create a sexual pathway? What are you doing with the things that you say? Basically, she's testing to see how clever and how sharp your mind is. Because, to be honest, the average woman has an incredibly clever and sharp mind. So she's seeing if you are at least at her level. At least at her level of cleverness, because she won't be able to respect a guy who is a dunce, who's just super simple caveman. Like, he doesn't have an edge to his mind. He's got a club. And it's like, okay, fine, but you know, that just, it's not impressive. It doesn't do anything for them emotionally. Okay, by being sharp, by being witty, by understanding how to wield language and create that subtle second conversation that's happening, that you're both aware of but are not speaking on, this is what they appreciate. All right, I wouldn't say this is what they're looking for, but when it happens, this is what they appreciate, because it produces a favorable emotion, right? If she's attracted to you. So the next shit test, see, we're getting more and more severe here, is the dominance shit test. And basically this is asking, are you going to let her wear the pants? Now, this is sort of linked to compliance, but it's more forceful. All right, and this is if she has just a little bit of fuel behind her words, if she's got a little bit more fire, if she's putting a dominant edge to the things that she's saying. How are you handling that? Because this is going to tell her real quick how big your balls are. If you can say no to her, if you can put her in her place, if you can diffuse that dominant energy and remind her where the polarity is. Okay? Or are you just going to let her be where she is? Are you going to walk away? Are you not going to challenge it at all? Whatever your response is, it's going to tell her certain something. Okay? Now, that really shouldn't be that much of your concern, because, like, whatever, she's a woman, she can have whatever thoughts and perceptions she wants. Okay? But I do think it's important to understand language and what is happening on a more subtle level. It's not just the words that are happening, ever. Okay? So, and this is because there was this guy, I forget his name. It's not Oscar Wilde who said this, but he's often misquoted as saying, everything in the world is about sex, except sex. Sex is about power. Okay? And I don't know where this was coined by Oscar Wilde. I don't know how this got into, you know, his zone, but it was actually a therapist, like a long time ago, or like a psychologist. Yeah, I think it was a psychologist, like a researcher, and he coins that term. But anyways, so with respect to the dominance shit test, everything is about sex. So all of your conversations with a woman, everything about it is that dance, that interplay of sex, which, you know, has a taste of dominance and submission and things of that nature, that like the flow of power. Except sex, which is just about power. You think it's about pleasure, but it's not. It really isn't. All right, so the last one here, the last of the shit test, is the nuclear shit test. And this is just straight up disrespect. And this is it's a direct attack on your identity or your masculinity. And this is to see how you handle that. What are you going to do? Are you going to take it on the chin? Are you going to explode? Are you going to react? Are you going to cut her off? Are you going to mindfully wonder what's going on in her mind? I don't know. There's probably like a number of ways that guys will respond to this. So, but this is yet another shit test. It's very simple. It's very bold. And frankly, I think if a woman is going to act this way, you just don't deal with her at all. So aside from the nuclear one, because that's just cutting her off, the response types for shit tests are as follows. And there's like a number of them, okay? But these are a few that I've noticed are fairly common. Okay, so one is just to ignore it. She gives you a shit test. Let's say you're like a short guy or an average guy, and she makes a joke about your height, okay? You ignore it. Completely ignore what she said and just move on with the conversation as though she never said anything at all. Okay. The next thing to do is to own it. All right. Be honest and direct. All right. So this is something that you can do. It just kind of like diffuses the game. All right. So where she's playing a game, and then by you just owning it, you bring it into reality, and it just sort of deadens the energy behind it. Okay. Another one that you can do, but it's not my advice to use it, which is to shame her, right? For being in a me versus you frame, and then you redirect it to us in this together. Okay. And so it's like, it's a form of shaming where you reframe it into us, into a you and me. Okay. So I call this the we frame, right? So if you're talking to a woman, initially the onset is like, you're over here, she's over there. There's like a you, me sort of thing. And the way you talk with her, you bring in the words we like, you're making a suggestion of a place or something like that. You use the word we should go over here. Like you and I should go to this thing. Like, so you reframe a lot of the conversation, all of the phrases you use with the word we, and that puts her into a different mindset of like, we're in this together. Okay. And you can flip certain shit tests into a we frame. And while you can use shaming, I really don't condone that, because that's like passive aggressive and it's kind of shitty. But I'm laying this out here not from my own opinions, but of just, this is an actual thing. Okay. Another one is to own her accusation and agree and show her what she's left out. Okay. So she's like, you're a real dickhead. And you're like, you know what? I am a dickhead. You forgot scruffy, short, and rude. Right? So it's like you own it, you agree, and then you add on top of what she was saying. Okay? Another popular one is to agree and amplify. So this is where she says something, and then you agree to what she said, and then the next statement you make is an over-exaggeration. Okay? And like, I don't know what she says, like, you gonna sleep all day? Yeah, actually I was planning on sleeping all day. In fact, I was gonna try out the whole Rumpelstiltskin thing and hoping that I could just fall asleep for about 1,000 years and then wake up into the future, and and then we'd have flying cars. Like, just go way the fuck out into absurd exaggerations. Okay. Then there's the pressure flip. This is another one that I don't really condone because it's passive aggressive, and that is to test her instead. So the pressure is put on you, and then you flip it around and say, something back to her, which is judgmental, right? So she makes a judgment, you flip it, make it a judgment. So now she's in the hot seat, usually from like a moral standpoint. Okay, so say she makes a joke about your height. She's like, oh no, like I don't date short guys, right? And you say like, are you always this judgmental of people? Gosh, I thought you were a decent person until now. So now you're flipping the accusation. Okay, you're flipping the pressure. Another good one is just a direct no. And then the last one is just to pull back and leave. And that's for the nuclear test. Something to remember about shit tests. And this is something that nice guys do all too often, like way, way, way too often. And that is to never explain yourself. Like, this is just a habit of my guys. I don't know why, but it's probably attached to the nice guy syndrome and being acceptable. So part of being accepted and being validated is being understood and not being misunderstood. So if you say something or do something, the girl tests that, then the guy will come around and start explaining and over explaining himself to smooth shit out so that she doesn't reject him. Okay. Never explain yourself. Okay. If she asks for more information, sure, you can explain a little bit more. But don't give unsolicited explanations for shit. All right. Never react emotionally. Never take it personally. Okay, understand the shit test isn't really about you. It's really about her. Okay, it has to do with trust. So never, and then also never excuse true disrespect. This is just unacceptable. Okay, because this just tells her that you're a pussy, that your balls are really small and you don't care for yourself. Never overanalyze. So don't overanalyze shit. If like, I've got a client, like granted, he's in a pretty tough spot. He's going through something pretty serious. But guys who are in the habit of being acceptable and trying to understand women, okay, because those things go hand in hand, right? You have to understand what you're trying to get the acceptance from so that you can devise a strategy to increase your chances of acceptability. And what that does is it makes guys take her statements and hold them up to the light to see if they're transparent or opaque. They're trying to overanalyze the meaning behind what she's saying so he can figure out if she likes him or not. This is a really, really bad habit. And I'm sorry for a lot of you guys who are overthinkers, but you are digging your own grave when you do this. You're making things exponentially more difficult. And this is going to in turn affect the way you show up, probably in ways you're unaware of, and make you unattractive. Okay. Let's hear. Oh, and never respond with logic. Like her shit tests, like whatever she's doing, whatever she says, do not respond with logic. Okay. Because this is going to truly drive down attraction. Okay. Like, just understand, like, just because there's a little test there, it doesn't mean she doesn't like you. She's just testing to see if you are who she thinks you are, because women have been fooled over and over and over again. And they know that tons of men lie to themselves. So if that's true, because a lot of women have tons of interaction with men, way more interaction than guys have with women. So this is something they've picked up on. So just understand, it's nothing terrible against you. It's just something that they're doing to watch out for their own well-being. And it's part of their survival mechanism, actually. That except for the nuclear shit test, which is just the true disrespect. So understand, like, she's there. There's a certain element of attraction, and if you want that attraction to not be killed, do not respond with logic, because it's like presenting closed-ended questions, right? Like, what's your favorite color? Blue. Okay. Like, it just ends right there with the answer. So by using logic, it sort of dries up the energy flow. Okay. So if a woman asks you about your height and you start talking about genetics and how your dad was a certain height and your mom was a certain height and your whole family is a certain height, then that just kind of like kills the whole flow. But if you can flip that, turn it into a joke, change perspective, misinterpret what she's saying, create a window and turn it into something sexual, this is way more powerful. Way more powerful. Okay. So another way that you can deal with these things is having a ridiculous misinterpretation of what she's saying. All right. This is a fun thing to do. So if you enjoy the play of language, then, if you enjoy the play of language, then doing this sort of thing will not be that big of a deal. All right. It's fun. Like, it's fun to just, like, if you've got like a playful, joking sort of mentality, right? Then doing over exaggerated misinterpretations is a funny thing to do. And it inadvertently changes the frame, especially if it's funny. So this will bring you into their frame. This is what comedians are very good at. All right. They can pull you in by laughing about a certain something. They could even be talking, like, if you just look at the context of what the comedian is saying, it could be something of a very serious nature, but because of the play of words that they're using and they're able to tap into humor, they now have brought you into their frame, and now you're laughing. You're seeing the world the way they're seeing it through the mastery of their language. So using exaggerated misinterpretations of things where it just sounds bizarre or funny or sexual or whatever, you can misinterpret anything, right? Whether it could be the opposite of what she's saying. Then it reframes things, and then with a reframing comes moods. Moods change with frames, okay? Because your perceptions and your emotions are typically linked, okay? So yeah, use playful misinterpretations. You should keep it light. This is with like new interactions with women. Like, keep things light and fun. Don't put pressure on things. You can use contextual role play. All right. So this is using imaginative context to impact her imagination. So, this is about painting small pictures in her mind, and it's really effective by using the we frame. So when you say we should do this, and then you could even go into a humorous, imaginative scenario where the two of you are doing something, okay? Then this is, like, say you're at a bar and you want to go somewhere else, and then you just paint a small picture of what that will be. And then maybe you can even exaggerate it into something else. I don't know, like going on a bank heist or something. I have no idea. And then she could be like the getaway driver. There's so many ways that you can play with using imaginative context. Okay. There's outfit role play. So this is similar to contextual role play, but more focused on her outfit or work uniform. Okay. So you see a girl out, say it's lunchtime, right? And there's people milling about, and you see a woman there. She's eating her lunch, and she's in her nurse's uniform. You use that uniform to play into the outfit role play, and you can use that as part of like the reframing with the we frame. All right, which is basically talking about you and her doing something either real or fantastical. Okay. Playful misinterpretation, I mentioned that already. You can You can do a positive pressure flip where you imply she's the one chasing you or trying to seduce you. You want to turn boring into exciting. Okay. You can, like any subject, like you could take, say, like ice cream, for example. You can talk about ice cream in a very boring way, really boring. Okay. Or you can talk about ice cream in a very excited way. Like imagine someone who has like a passion for making ice cream. It's like one of their greatest hobbies in life. They're going to talk about ice cream way different. Okay. So if that can be done with virtually any topic, then turn the boring into exciting. Okay. You want to, another tip is to leave her wanting more, which is through creating cliffhangers and teasing. Okay. Teasing, not like poking fun at her, but teasing her with what's to come. And what that does is it gives women a shot of their very, very, very most favorite drug in the entire universe, which is anticipation. Okay. So while there's, you can build sexual tension, you want to leave her with cliffhangers and just like little bits of not having all of the information. Okay. Not knowing exactly what's going on, what's going to happen next. And if her interest has been growing through the initial conversation, then you can just leave her in this state of a cliffhanger. What's going to happen next? Okay. It's like women love that shit. It happens in the books they read, and the movies they watch. Okay. Hinting at future, foreshadowing. That's another one. Foreshadowing of what's to come, which can be linked to leaving her wanting more. When asked about something you do sexually, like kissing, for example, you can sort of, give jokes about that sort of thing. One of my guys mentions a 5-star Yelp review, and then it's a humorous way of showing, that you kiss well, but in a joking way. Like you're not trying to show off, like a woman will sometimes ask you, like, are you a good kisser? And then he was like, actually, yeah, I've got a 5-star review on Yelp. And like, obviously that doesn't exist. So in the context of what they were saying, it was funny. If asked, like, what are you looking for? Say simple things like wine, great connection, and a bit of fun, as well as handcuffs, ticklers, and paddles. Right? So you're giving like a little bit of both. You're giving like the stuff that women are looking for, right? They're looking for romance. They're looking for fun. They're looking for a class, but they're also looking for some kinky shit. They're looking for passion. They're looking for sexuality, right? So what are you looking for? The wine, great connection, and a bit of fun, as well as handcuffs, ticklers, and paddles. When she says she's good at XYZ, responds by, I'll be the judge of that, or something along those lines. Basically that like flips and puts you in the position of dominance, in the idea that you are the judge, you are the decider of quality. Also, something to avoid is using emojis. Like, stop using emojis. I would say it's like fine to play around a little bit, like if you've got a girlfriend that you've been seeing for a while, and you like it's, but other than that, like, you're a grown man. Like, there's really no need to be playing around with emojis. Building, investment and rapport, but this is, it's a bigger context, but this is just, part of my notes here. And so another thing to avoid, like within your conversations, avoid bragging. Bragging is really, really bad. So it's something that she wants to feel, like she wants to feel your competence, but you don't want to like brag about it, right? So if, like, let's say you're good at sports, like don't brag to her about how good you are at sports. Like, maybe like go out and like I don't know, go to like batting cages or something like that, and she can see how good you are. She can watch you moving your body. That sends a stronger message than you boasting about how good you are, at playing baseball, for example. All right. And And then pay attention to her attempts to positively qualify herself. So if a woman really likes you, pay attention to where she's positioning herself to meet what she thinks that you want. All right. And this is basically her trying to positively qualify herself. And something that I would suggest is do not validate her by agreeing. Now, this is not to say that I'm not saying don't validate her because validating women is bad. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is that when you do that, it turns it into another closed-ended sort of thing. It's along the lines of what's your favorite color? It's blue. Okay. So she's like, I'm really good at cooking, right? And then you're like, oh yeah, I bet you are. See, like it just kind of ends. There's no more room to play there, right? So if she gives herself the position of qualifying herself, then play with it. Play with it with humor, wit, misinterpret certain things, change the context, over exaggerate, just have fun, have fun with the language. And the lighter you are and the less robotic you are, because I do have a couple of guys, they're just, it's hard to break them out of it, but you can't be analytical about this stuff. You have to really loosen up and get out of your head. Okay. So don't keep these tips just running through your head. All right, I'm waiting for her to say a certain thing, and then I'm going to use a level 5D variation of the misinterpretation method. You gotta loosen up, really loosen up, and just allow yourself to have fun. Okay, because the lighter you are and the more fun that you're having, playing around with language, this will bring her more in, closer to you than anything that you're actually saying. Okay, because it comes off in a lot of your overall mannerisms, the tone of your voice. You can tell, I'm sure you guys have been in situations where you've been around someone who's uncomfortable. You've been around somebody who you're and they're needlessly uncomfortable, right? You don't understand why they're this way. And it almost gets on your nerves. I remember when I was living in Italy, there was this girl, what was her name? Dara or Tara or something like that. And she was insecure about her size. She was taller than most girls, and she was a little bit bigger than most girls. So she had this insecurity about being imposing, being in the way, and bumping into people and all that bullshit. So if we were just sitting there, just eating lunch together, and her foot happened to touch my foot, she'd be automatically, oh, I'm sorry. And I'm thinking to myself, girl, you didn't break my toes. Chill the fuck out. The fact that you're doing this is making you even more repulsive. Your attempts at not being repulsive are making you repulsive. And this is the same shit that you guys do. Your attempts at not being rejectable actually make you even more rejectable because you're trying too hard. All right. You need to lighten up. And if you can't lighten up, if it's difficult for you, that's an opportunity for you to question, why can't I lighten up? It's really important, because it's you think it's just all about technique or whatever, and it's not. It's about, it makes a difference, right? Having some sort of technique and good handle on language and how to play and having wit, but it's more important of who is doing these things. And for what reason? How do you feel about yourself is going to change all of this stuff, right? So you could, I know a guy who's, he's fairly deft at seducing women, okay? But his reasoning, his psychological reasoning is different, okay? It's different because while on the surface he's getting what he wants, there's an altered being inside that is still wanting to have the approval of women. And the difference is that he's just gotten very good at it. So on the surface, another guy looking at him be like, dang, that guy's got game. Like, he knows what he's doing. He can bag chicks easily. Okay. But he still hasn't solved the mystery of who he is to himself, which changes everything. It changes everything. Because then when you do this and you shift over, you start looking at your behaviors and going, why the fuck was I doing that? Really? I was doing that just to get some pussy? Really? Why? Why was I working so hard for a bit of pussy? Right? It doesn't make any sense. Okay? Yes. So let's see here. Dylan's got a question. What's up, Dylan? What's up, Scott Clark? Question. One of the women I'm talking to took 3 days to get back to my last text. So she asked me if I'm free tonight to meet after 6 p.m. Are you free tonight to meet after 6 p.m.? Mr. Justin, what would be a good way for me to punish the poor communication? Does she know that she has broken a rule? Now, see, you're reacting out of your emotions here. All right, this is a clear example of having no structure, okay, and moving by your feelings. See, you want to instill some sort of dominance here, okay, but you cannot present dominance and a structure for someone who didn't even know it was there. So it's like someone's driving along in a town and they pass through an intersection. And then the cop pulls them over and they're like, hey, you just broke the law. And the person's like, well, what did I do? They're like, well, you ran through the stop sign. And the person looks back and they're like, I didn't know there was a stop sign there. I didn't see anything. Okay. And they look back and there isn't a stop sign. So the cop is trying to enforce a law on them for something that doesn't even exist. It wasn't even proposed. There was no the agreed upon social contract. Okay, so this is a reach for power. So he said she knew. Now I'm looking at this. Like, she asked if I'm free to meet after 6 p.m. Now, no, he did not say she knew. I'm looking at the question right here. Took 3 days to get back to my... So did you give her instructions to get back to me in 1 day or 2 days or what have you? Did you do any of that? Did you give her clear instructions? Or did you sit back with your covert contracts hoping that she would magically fit into the thing that you are hoping for? And then if she does, great, you get, validation, you feel good. And if she doesn't, you now are butthurt because she somehow didn't get the memo that you had this expectation. Okay, so no, you're not in the right to punish someone for not knowing what the law is. That doesn't make any sense. All right, be direct. So if say 3 days ago, you talked to her and your last message, it depends on what your last message was. Okay, so was it a statement? Was it a question? All right. So these things matter. But again, like, just generally speaking, you cannot punish someone for breaking a rule that they didn't know even existed. Okay. So this is what that is. Okay. So no, you don't have the right to punish her for anything. Did you tell her, text me in Thursday after 2 p.m.? Yeah, exactly. Leaving clear, concise instructions. Yep. Yeah, exactly. You want to just set, it's not even boundaries, right? Because you're not like really protecting anything, right? That's what boundaries do. You're just giving clear instructions of when you want to hear from her next, okay? Because it's your time. But besides, like, why are you waiting by the phone? Like, why does it bother you that she... See, there's always good questions lying in there that you're not really aware of. So it bothered you that she didn't respond after 3 days. Why would that bother you? Who cares? Like, why do you care? These are the important things to ask yourself. Okay. Let me clarify. I can only put in so much. Yeah, of course. A month ago, I did set a clear boundary with her not to leave me hanging regarding text plans for more than 24 hours. okay, not to leave you hanging. All right. So that puts her in the position of authority. So you're already, how do I explain this? You're hanging because you're saying, please don't let me hang. All right. So this is like set up all wrong. This is set up all wrong. You can clean these things up, all right, but it's really important that you establish your dominance right away. This is the best thing to do. You don't want to have to like try to scoop things back into place. Okay, well, it's like, like losing its structural integrity, and you're like, oh my gosh, like I gotta like push it back together like a sandcastle falling apart, or you seeing things that you didn't take into account for, and you're like, oh my god, I gotta do something, right? I don't like how this is going. It's best to start off on the right foot. Okay, start off on the right foot. So no, the game starts when you wake up. Game starts when you open your eyes and you walk to the bathroom and you look in the mirror and you say, I love that motherfucker. That's when the game starts, brother. Yeah, no problem, Dylan. And really, it's like, who gives a shit about this woman, right? Like, she's not your woman. She hasn't campaigned to get on your program or whatever. So all of these interactions really are about you. They're all about learning about you. And that's what's most important here. It's not about getting the girl. It's not about her coming into your program. It's not about any of that shit. Like, that's all just like fluff that can be added to the top. Like, oh, great. Like, there's a woman here. Okay. And she likes me and we're having fun and all that bullshit. Where the real value is what you learn about yourself through these interactions. So already I'm pointing out to you, like, don't leave me hanging, as if hanging is something that is displeasurable to you, that makes you suffer in some kind of way. And so this tells her something, and this should also tell you something now that I'm pointing it out to you. Why does having just say communication distance, right, in terms of time, why does that produce the feeling of being hung, being left out to dry, okay, flapping in the breeze, left hanging? All right. So what that is leaving me hanging. Like, you go for a high five and your buddy just doesn't do anything. You're leaving me hanging. Okay. There's an unfulfilled expectation. So the question is, why are you having this expectation? What is that? What is the motivation behind that? Because I guarantee it's not out of some sort of like strong principle. People have boundaries like this in order to protect something, right? So it's like, I don't want you to do this so I don't feel bad. Okay? So this is putting too much attention on the woman, but it's a great opportunity to investigate why that's even there in the first place. Okay? This is what's causing you the problem, not her. She can do whatever the fuck she wants to do until she's on your program, until she's been given, she's campaigned and she's now stepped across the threshold, and you say, here's the rules, honey. You did a good job passing the entry exam. This is what's expected of you if you want to stay here. Okay? So it's like, you're not there yet. You're not there yet to dictate. Okay? Until then, you give them free will. You give them complete free will to do whatever the fuck they want to do. And if any of it bothers you, don't focus on her and what she's doing. Like I said, it's a great opportunity to learn about yourself. Okay? All right. Dukalux is not about having a fun life. You can have a boring life. You can have a simple life, right? It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with just what's the relationship there internally, Yeah. Well, Scott, yeah, it's setting the structure from the moment you say hello. And this is why I say all the time, never be afraid to lose the woman. I don't care if it's been 5 minutes, been 5 weeks, 5 months, or 5 years, or 25 years. Never be afraid to lose a woman, because this will alter everything you do and say and think. Your fear in loss will change everything. It's on a subtle way. Okay, it's kind of like you make a nice meal, and it's like adding just a little too much salt. You look at the meal and like it looks great. Okay, you smell it, it smells great, but then you taste it and you're like, ooh, and it completely alters your entire experience of that meal because it has too much salt. You now can't enjoy it. It changes the flavor of the beef and the vegetables or the broth or whatever's going on, okay? So your experience of that meal is now completely different just by a little, just too much of a mineral. That's it, okay? So it's like that, you know? Who likes being on red for 24 hours? Who gives a shit? Why are you waiting for a response? It reminds me of like those old cartoons or something like that, or those old shows with like this girl, she really likes some boy, and she's at home. This is like before cell phones, right? And she's at home and she's just sitting there with her chin rested on her hands right in front of the phone, waiting for it to ring. And it like rings, she's like, oh boy, and she picks it up, and you know, it's somebody for her mother. And she's like, dang, yeah, my mom's here, hold on. Mom, the phone's for you, right? Like, who likes being on red for 24 hours? Who gives a shit? Like, why are you waiting? Why do you care? Like, why? It's rude in general. No, it's not. Who gives a shit? Like, what's a more important question is why do you care? And try to answer it without protecting your ego. That's my challenge to you. Answer the question and without protecting your ego. Try to answer it as honestly as possible and dig deep. Okay? It shows low interest for sure. But why? All right, let's connect the dots here. I'll show you. It shows low interest, which equates to you as rudeness. So her not being interested in you is being rude. Do you see how big your ego is? It's like you're a poor human being, or that behavior is poor human behavior because you don't like me enough. How fucking self-centered is that shit? Question, should I tell her the script of my law, rules, and boundaries in the first meetup, or as soon as she does something that's not cool to bring up? Honestly, I think you and I should just have a conversation. Because, you know, if you're like currently talking to a woman and you're deeming that, or is this, I don't know if this is hypothetical, all right? But if you're like currently in a you know, an interaction with a woman that's good enough to the point where you feel it's justified that she has the honor of learning more about what's expected of her, then before doing that, I would suggest setting up a time for us to talk, just so I can get a feel for what you're about to propose. Okay. In general, no, right? Because I've got 56 rules that are like public, private, distance, and sexual. I didn't drop this on my woman all at once. Okay. It was a little bit over time, and it was in like for each category, there's from gentle to severe, or like an easy ask to something that's much more demanding. And so I would over time slowly present the easy tasks, and then over time start presenting more and more demanding rules, things that call into question her character and her consistency and energy. Okay. And so you do this over time, generally speaking, but I actually would like to hear more like what that structure is. and help you out if there's any sort of holes that are put in there. You know, certain people that when they insecure not having enough to do until they secure in themselves might get them too focused too much on what the woman does. Well, see, I mean, you can be too focused on what a woman does, whether you've got a busy life or a boring life. It's just, if your mind is geared towards paying attention too much to what a woman does, even if it's not at a high frequency because you're busy, you're still going to be taking her words and holding them up to the light to see if, you know, if light passes through it, if it's opaque or not, you know, give her directions and keep moving with amnesia. Yeah. Never get your hopes up or expect any woman to be a mind reader. If she doesn't respond to no directions, yeah, just let it pass, you know, just let it pass like a fart. It's really not that big of a deal. It only is a big deal when you make it a big deal because you have certain beliefs around what women are to you. And this is where all of your problems stem when it comes to women. You think it's their behavior, and it's really not, unless it's like really egregious sort of stuff. But let's face it, most women are not incredibly rude out here, just like smacking men and like, you know, calling them pieces of shit and get the fuck out of here, you loser. Like, most women are not like that, okay? So I would just say, like, yeah, just stop paying attention so much to what they're fucking saying. Yep. But if you are in communication, waiting for 24 hours doesn't allow for a context or a flow, generally speaking. Sure. Okay. So what I would say is then you're right, generally speaking. Okay. But if you're waiting for her, that means you're not leading. So most likely you're just a boring communicator. You don't know how to, you know, some of the stuff I mentioned earlier in the show, that this is like not within your wheelhouse. You don't know how to insinuate sexuality. You don't know how to engage her emotions. You don't know how to spark her imagination and take her on like these little journeys in her mind, and making her, you know, wet between the legs just by talking with her. Now, I'm not saying that like you need to know how to do this right away. It's a skill. It takes time to learn. Okay. So don't feel bad if your conversations go dead, but understand it's because communication is a skill. Okay. It's a general ability of most, you know, healthy human beings who can have a brain and they've got a working tongue and mouth, right? It's a general ability that we have, but to make it effective is not a right or something you're just born with. Okay. There's skills behind being an effective communicator to make people feel and think and perceive things that you want them to feel, think, and perceive. All right? This is why certain salesmen are fantastic at selling, because they know how to see the world through the eyes of the person that they're selling to. And when they do that, they can understand their mind, they can understand their heart, they understand what motivates them, and then they start speaking to those things that motivate them. But if you're stuck on the surface of thinking, oh, women are just motivated by money and good-looking guys, you're dumb. You don't understand women. That is not what motivates women. Now, that's not to say women don't like those things. Of course they do. They like good-looking guys, right? They like money. They like shiny stuff. They like adventures, but that's not what they're motivated by. Their core doesn't have a dollar on it. Their core doesn't have a yacht on it, okay? Their core doesn't have a six-pack on it. It has deep emotions. And those things, like once you have experienced women on these levels, you'll understand that those things don't really do anything for women. Sorry about the sirens. Hope that's not being picked up. God damn. Went right by the window. So, right. So, when you're understanding a woman's true motivations, what actually moves them internally, okay, which ultimately affects how they feel, which then affects how they perceive things, which then affects their behavior, then you understand how to really talk to them, right? As like, shout out to Steve the Dean. He says, talk to women, not at them. Okay. Having a six pack is talking at them. Having a big fucking bank account is talking at them. Having a nice car is talking at them. Having great fashion is talking at them. It doesn't talk to their core. It doesn't make them feel a certain way about themselves. And when you are able to communicate to their core, you are able to shift their perception of how they feel about themselves, which becomes leagues more powerful than the biggest bank account you could ever acquire. I mean, as far as her emotional attachment to you, okay? Because if it wasn't that, then no A-list actor would ever get divorced. No pro ball player of any sport would ever get divorced because they've got everything. I mean, worldly speaking, okay? Yet they're divorced constantly. And if they're not divorced, they're divorced without actually being divorced, right? They sleep in different rooms within the mansion. They each got lovers. They both have just these separate lives, and their kids are just like dealt with, okay? If they have kids. So they're separate but together, legally married, but they're actually just not together at all. Okay? Like, people think that just like celebrity means like perfect everything. No, it doesn't mean that at all. Did my membership options change? Yeah, I made some changes, but a while back. So I have to go soon. I've got a meeting at 10 after 5 here. But so just to let you guys know, I did change some stuff. I've got one section is just for calls. So you can purchase like a single call. You can purchase a group of like 4, I think, and then a group of 8. And then, so that's just calls, and you can talk about whatever the fuck you want to talk about. Okay. It's up to you, and you can use them at your own discretion. The next grouping is just the library access. So it's just a monthly access to the video library that I've got. There's audios in there, and there's also documents. Okay. So there's like documents in there about how to set up for submissive training, how to basically create a schedule for submissive training. And it's really great stuff as far as those documents are concerned. The videos are very helpful. And they stem all the way from, your mindset. I'm like, talking to women, how to set up your place for when women come over, developing your mouthpiece, understanding your internal government, understanding how to create a program, understanding dominance, how to bridge power dynamics into your interactions and into your relationships. And, and every month there is at least 1 or 2 more videos added to that. So there's that tier. And then the final tier is the mentorship program, where you get access to those, all that the library, plus you have weekly calls with me, and which extend for about an hour. And then on top of that, you have homework, you've got reading assignments and exercises. And basically, like, I'm on you like white on rice. And, and then you also have me in the back of your pocket via Telegram, and you get 24/7 access with me via text message or voice notes. And so it's very intensive. It's a very intensive training, and and it will take you through sometimes emotional hell, because changing it is sometimes one of the most painful things a person can do, because largely all of the things that you've been doing to get you where you are right now, whether it's good or bad, has been associated with your identity. So if you start questioning your identity to then change the behaviors you do, because it can't just change your behaviors and not the person who's doing them, right? They have to be done together. So you start questioning and changing parts of your identity to then change parts of your behaviors. This is sometimes not a very easy process, because a lot of your identity now that's led to, say, bad habits and bad choices and bad positions in life have to do with coping mechanisms. So you've learned from a long time ago in your childhood to cope with certain things and then make adjustments and justifications and new belief systems such that you can survive living with these coping mechanisms without being aware of said coping mechanisms. right? So you don't realize that you're playing yourself because that feels better, okay? And then you go through life this way, and inevitably there's going to be problems due to these setups. So to then have these things like dismantled in front of you that you're actually paying for, which is like kind of crazy, but you know, for a greater end, it's painful. It's not an easy process, and you'll be on and off the wagon throughout the entire thing. And this is why true mentorship takes about 6 months to a year at the minimum. All right. The farthest I've gone with guys was 18 months. So it takes a while to undo the parts of you that are unhelpful, because your ego desperately grasps onto those things, because the ego hates change. Even if you're sitting in a pile of shit, it likes to be where it's at. All right, I'm going to end this now. I've talked a little bit too much. I hope this stream was helpful for you guys. Go back, take notes, and we'll see you on the next one. I appreciate you guys have been here on the live, and you know, please get the likes up, send it to a friend. That if you've enjoyed this stream, or if you enjoy my channel, please send it to a friend. And let's grow this channel, and we can grow it together. And I appreciate you. For those of you who are catching on the live stream, I appreciate you as well. Until next time, take it easy.